Welcome to Toni Unleashed, the podcast where we unleash the truth about all things pets.
Our research and anecdotal evidence matched with pet expert interviews will help you help your pet thrive.
We are here to answer questions, divulge information, and spread awareness about what's really going on in the world of pets.
I am your co-host, Emily Taylor, pet nutrition enthusiast.
And I'm Toni Shalasky, owner of Healthy Pet Products with 3 locations in the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area, and recently expanded to Port Charlotte, Florida.
Welcome to the show.
Hello to all our paw-loving friends. Welcome back to another episode of Toni Unleashed. And I am super excited to have Heather, one of the owners of Petagogy, a locally owned Pittsburgh natural and organic pet food store. And Heather, why don't you go ahead and you tell our listeners how your business started, how it all came to be.
Great. Yeah, so we started Petagogy in 2011, and at the time it was me and my husband and 2 of our friends, Ben and Elsie, and it was like one of those crazy conversations over beer that like ended up actually happening, much to my surprise. But yeah, we had gotten dogs. We were all living on the East End. The only place where we could get great products was Healthy Pet Products in North Hills. And we were like, this is kind of nuts. Like, there's so many dog owners on the east side of town. How is there not, anything over here? We had some pet stores, but they were sort of, your more traditional mom and pop, old school pet stores. Not a ton of, of the more innovative stuff that, you were definitely carrying at the time.
And what year was this?
2011.
Okay.
So it was kind of like we were kind of at the right place in the right time in our lives, no kids yet. Just kind of like, Cole, my husband, had just graduated from business school and was sort of like he was, kind of an entrepreneurial guy and was just like itching to figure out a business that we could open. And this kind of was what we came up with. And here we are 12 years later and it's still, kicking and we're having a good time.
So did you start out as managing the Shadyside store right out of the gate?
Pretty much. So we just obviously started really small in Shadyside. We were like a quarter of the size because we really had no idea what we were doing. I had a little bit of retail experience from when I was younger, but really like none of us kind of, we just sort of went in kind of blind. I sort of like look back at those days and I'm just like, wow, we got lucky in a lot of ways, but we started small. We found a space right across the street from a vet, which we just assumed was like, instant. At least people would see us. At the very least, the people that went to the vet would see us. Mm-hmm. And, to our surprise, like it caught on pretty quickly. We were in a good location in Shadyside, a lot of walking traffic, a lot of neighborhood dogs would visit. And yeah, and I had just finished graduate school at the time. So I was also sort of in a place in my life where I didn't really have a formal job. So our kind of deal when we opened was that each couple would basically like donate a person who would staff the store because we obviously didn't have any money to like hire anybody at the time. So it ended up being me and Ben. And now, fast forward 12 years later, we're sort of the 2 primaries. Yeah. Cole and Elsie are, they do things behind the scenes, but they're definitely, Elsie has a lot of practice and Cole works a job outside the store. So we definitely do the heavy lifting. And then we did bring in our longtime manager, Allie, as a partner in 2016 when we opened the Greensburg store. Mm-hmm. And so that's been great having her on as well.
So I know Allie. I mean, not know her.
From the rescue world.
No, just from shopping.
Yeah, everybody knows Allie. Allie's like, everyone's like, is that girl with the tattoo still work there? Like, yeah, she's, still here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Allie, started Biggie's Bullies of the same year that we started Petagogy. And so that's kind of how we got to know her. She was just coming in, to buy things for her rescue dogs. And then she needed, she'd worked in like she'd worked at the dog shop for a little while. She'd worked at actually she was working at Animal Friends when we adopted our first dog there, but like we didn't, know it. We kind of put it together after, she was like, I remember your dog, so, Aww. But yeah, so she's, she obviously has a huge, knowledge of the pet world and, rescue and animals. And so she's been a great addition.
And okay. So you opened Greensburg in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And then when did you add on to Shadyside? Because you bumped over to the
Yeah. So 2014. So this was even before Greensburg. We were like, well, we need a lot more space than this.
Yeah.
And we kind of went on a space search and we were looking all around the neighborhood and we just like couldn't find anything that was good. We really liked our location, but it was just so small.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, our landlords came to us and they were like, hey, the people who rent the storefront next to you guys they want less space. So we'll turn this into one big storefront for you. And so they knocked out all the walls. They made it like one wraparound store. They took out our storage room and like put put a floor in it so that we'd actually have. So we went from like 600 square feet to about 2,000 thanks to them. So that was key. Otherwise we were like, we would have been located somewhere else. But so that kind of worked out for us.
That's great. That's great. So, and as far as being a business owner and in Pittsburgh, what has helped? Like, is there really, because you're in the city, do you really feel like you have a lot of neighborhood support?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I think the part of the city that we're in is definitely, it's a neighborhood. It's very walkable. We have a ton of pet owners that are within walking distance, but they're really just, I think people in the city really like to shop local.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big, it's important to, I would say we definitely get people from all over the city, but I definitely, our majority of our customer base is Squirrel Hill, Shadyside, Point Breeze, East Liberty, Lawrenceville. And like those customers are great and they really love small businesses. And so they're going to Forbes Avenue and they're shopping at Little's and they're going to, Ellsworth to support us and they're going to Walnut Street. So, it's just sort of been a really good fit for us. And they want it, they want the advice and they want people who, can help them out when they need, what if they want to be able to talk to somebody. So yeah, it's been we really love, this neighborhood.
Yeah. I mean, it's an incredible neighborhood. And I feel like it's just up and coming as we go with the college kids. And then you don't really realize how close you guys really are to Point Breeze.
Yeah.
You guys are so close to Point, like that area over there too.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's walkable if you want to, if it's a nice day. I live in Point Breeze, so I've definitely walked to the store. But yeah, it's great. We love it.
And do you feel like you have support because you're technically a woman-owned business? Like, do you think that pulls for you or?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if anybody's actually said that outward, but I don't know. I like to think that it helps.
Yeah.
That it's funny. We never had we had Ben, obviously, is, part of the ownership, and he was in the Shadyside store basically until we opened Greensburg. But then, you really didn't see him after that much because he was kind of always over there. And we didn't really have any male employees until we brought David on in, I think maybe like he's been there for 3 years. But for a long time, it was us. It was just the ladies. And, people, that's how people knew us. They'll still, ask like, is Allie still here? Is Rach still there? Is, all the people that have come and gone. So yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. I like to think yes.
I know, right?
What about support from the vet across the street?
Yeah, I mean, we have a pretty good relationship with them. Obviously, just like I'm sure you guys do with the vets in your area, there's some, we don't always agree on some of the recommendations, but, we go there, a lot of our customers go there. They're fabulous, caring vets. We just sort of, we give our advice and just sort of hope that something resonates.
Same.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
So since you've been in business, what do you think have been the biggest changes?
Oh my God. I mean, the amount of, I think it's twofold. I would say the amount of, I guess, recognition of pet as a moneymaker has been huge in terms of the amount of private equity that has come in, the amount of, consolidation among the basically in all three categories: distribution, store, retail store, and then just in these, these independent pet food companies. How many of them were family owned when we first started that are now not?
Nope. Yep.
So, which it's, and I think it's both a good and a bad thing. I mean, it's great that this sector has, gotten a lot of attention and that there really are a dearth of products that are fantastic. The flip side, there's a lot of people riding the coattails of those products and are, seemingly just as good, but when you actually sort of, drill down, they're not.
Right.
And parsing through that can be challenging for even, the most experienced person. So customers, obviously, it's getting really muddy out there. And, the race, I'm sure we talked about this weekend, every time a rep comes in with another 50 SKUs, and it, a little bit of it is like, stay in your lane, guys.
Yeah.
Like, you don't all have to have every single product category. Do what you do and do it well. And let's leave, the kibble to these guys and the raw to these guys. And, so yeah, I mean, I think back to like when we first opened, I think Fromm had 5 flavors, or maybe it was like 5 with grain, and then they had like 2 grain frees.
Right.
Just like Weruva had just Weruva Classic.
Right.
I mean, it's just funny, like how much has changed.
So it's kind of like we screwed ourselves, because I feel like independent pet food stores across the country, we have educated so much and grown this business so much that
Absolutely.
everybody wants on the bandwagon, which has increased how many products we have to choose from.
Which then increases marketing strategies. And kind of tricking the consumer. And like you 100%. Said, muddying, the perspective of what's, legit and what isn't.
Absolutely.
So we did a good thing in a way, but we also kind of fucked ourselves.
Exactly. It exploded. And, which is sometimes like, well, we were, it was sort of cool. And it was a little bit more like a, not a niche market, but it was kind of like, hey, like this is, but it's the same in human food, It's like, you look at all the products that used to be like the healthy brands, and they're all owned by Kellogg's or Procter and Gamble, or you know what I mean? And so it's like, it's just the same idea. And you have to just dig a little bit harder to kind of really figure out, where things stand in terms of, ownership and manufacturing and all that stuff. So
absolutely.
It makes our jobs both easier and harder.
Yep. It absolutely does.
But I like to think we've gotten better at figuring out the bullshit.
Yeah. And I think that not only that, but I think that there's a reputation that we've created as well. Like,
I mean, something that I've heard you say, Toni, a lot more recently is like you are more willing to bring in more SKUs and willing to bring in more products from companies that have had your back and had supported you throughout the years, and who are, consistent in that, versus the companies
100%.
And the products that, it's like the new trending thing, and they're only going to stick around until it benefits them and then walk away, from that level of support.
Agree. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think you can tell, even just in the beginning of a sort of like the relationship, which ones are sort of like doing independent pet because like they think they need to, and are basically just waiting for like Petco and PetSmart
to buy them out or
like
pick
bring
them up.
On and then the moment they do, they don't care about us. And then, the ones who, even if they do go into a big box store, still are extending sort of the, the hand out to the people who help them get where they are. So yeah, it's, it's always a fun situation.
It's a ride,
because it's inevitable. It
is. And when it first started happening, like I was never one, like when Natura sold out to Purina, I was not that person that was just, because you remember the stories, some store owners went and threw their food in the dumpster.
Oh, 100%. And I'm already hearing about Champion too, currently. Like, but yes, I remember it was like
no,
done.
Yeah,
we're done.
I just never took that outlook, because I didn't think it was realistic, because even if the customer wants to switch and it was a valid switch, they still need the food to do the switch correctly. It takes time.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so our biggest thing was these brands that we keep that end up in a big box store or get sold, it's full disclosure. I'll say to them, well, we still have them because XYZ. They feed well, their price point's fairly good. I mean, you have to be able to serve a customer base, right? But then you just say, hey, just so you know,
Yep.
Our only hesitation is this. And it's like, if they have the information, then the customer can make their decision. It's when, you kind of try to keep it quiet that I think you get into, a problem.
Same.
But yeah, it's like, you can't, if we threw every product out that,
we'd have empty shelves.
We'd have empty shelves.
We really would.
You have to, I think you have to evaluate it on a case by case basis, and you do what's right for you and your customers,
And so with all that being said, so over the years, do you think, have you eliminated any specific ingredients because of that? Or I don't think we really,
I mean, you don't like to do any coloring added.
Yeah.
Since coloring, no wheat, no corn, no soy.
No corn, no wheat, no soy. Yeah.
Yep, same.
Yeah. I mean, the basics, no byproducts. I mean, yeah, I think we all sort of have that general
standard.
Standard. Yeah. And I mean, I think back over we definitely made some of those rash decisions early on when we, you know what I mean? Because I think it was also newer back, it was like only just like starting to happen that these companies were starting to sell. So you sort of, obviously the writing was on the wall, but I think some of us were a little bit naive to be like, this is the trend. And so I definitely think that I'm like, I know we made those decisions. I don't think we were as like, extreme about it, but we were kind of like, okay, well, maybe we'll make room for like something, we kind of like would give the time for the transition and then, make room for something that was a little bit more independent. But it's like, it's almost happening so quick. You can't even do that. You have to, you know what I mean? So it's like, but yeah, I mean, yes, I think same. I mean, I think the ingredient thing, same thing. There's, those are always been deal breakers for us. We've never brought those in. I still have companies come in and they're like, we'd love to get in here. And I'm like, you can come in here every single day of your life, but there's corn in your ingredient packet. It's not going to happen. Like, I appreciate I appreciate that you're trying to get into a small store, but like, it's no, it's a hard no. But I don't know. It's an interesting one. We try to we have those general standards and then it's just kind of evaluate it. And frankly, especially on like the dry food side, there's been so little that has come out in the last like 5 to 7 years that has just been different.
Bingo. Agree. 100%. Yep.
Other than baked and air dried, but even
then, there's
not that many people.
Everybody's got baked and air dried. Yeah. I would say the last like true kibble brand that I was like excited about was Signature. And how long have they been on the market? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They served a purpose. They filled a niche.
Yeah.
Now it's like everybody's either, whole grain, ancient grain, or grain free. Everybody's got, meat first. I mean, it's like, there's no,
I mean, Heather, when a rep comes into me with a new kibble, I'm like, you're just another fucking kibble.
Yeah.
Like,
I know. I know. And frankly, we're getting there with like freeze dried too.
Yeah.
It's like, how many freeze dried SKUs can you have? You have a niblet, you have a meal mixer, you have a topper, and you have a patty.
Yeah.
Great.
And it's the kibble companies now coming up with their own freeze dried. It's like you're competing with people who've already been like on the freeze dried market.
Players in this game.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I know.
And now we have gently cooked.
Oh, God,
do you carry gently cooked? We didn't talk about cooked.
Yeah, you guys do. I was just actually in your store because I go to Petagogy because you guys are I'm in Morningside. So you guys are very close.
That's right. I was
going
to say, I think your husband, does he come in sometimes?
Yeah.
Are you married?
Yeah.
So I was going to say, he's very nice. I've talked to him a few times.
Yes.
Yes.
But he's like, they know you. And I was like, well, I think there was another Emily. And I was like, I think they think it's that Emily because that Emily is like more known.
I'm pretty sure I knew it was you, but that's fine. Yeah,
okay.
He's so nice. Yeah.
Yes. So we go there to Petagogy, or sometimes I do Petagogy and do Lawrenceville Pet Supplies, depending on what I need, in a pinch when I like run out of something and I don't have the time to, go to the store. So I was just there, and you guys have, I know you guys for sure have Stella and Chewy's new.
I do have the Stella and Chewy's.
Yeah.
That's the only one. And the only other one I ever had before that was My Perfect Pet, only because we carried their like specialty diets. Like I had their low glycemic, I had their kidney, their like low phosphorus. I liked those diets. But I never really did anybody else. Cause I'm like, if you're going to pay that kind of money, go raw. Like, why wouldn't you just go raw? So yeah, I do have the Stella and Chewy's ones kind of more as just like, we do have a lot of customers who are, experimenting with the
They
farmer's
know the
dog
brand
and all that stuff.
Yeah.
They know the brand. So, but yeah.
Heather, Emily did crunch some numbers on Farmer's Dog. So, so we could probably share some good info with you as far as it's not all it's cracked up to be from an economic standpoint.
Oh, I signed up for it for my dogs. Like I filled out their survey.
Genius. That's great.
It was like hundreds of dollars.
Yeah.
And I was like, even without like the discounting at the store, I would still be better off feeding small batch or, whatever it is I'm doing.
Oh, even small batch. Because that's like the most
I think
expensive.
so. At least the last time I looked. I haven't calculated it for a couple of years, but even so, or it was negligible. You know what I mean? It was like maybe you're paying like a little bit less, but you're not getting the same thing.
Right.
You know?
Right. Oh. Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, I'd love to see your numbers on this.
Yeah. It's not. And it's very, didn't you find that it was very legume heavy?
Yeah, they didn't have, it wasn't like really heavy in animal protein. It was really heavy in like vegetable and starch. That's why I think that's why their price point seems and is somewhat cheaper than other companies. Like I compared it specifically to Raised Right. And I was like, we're never going to be able to market Raised Right as cheaper than farmer stock, but we can say that you're getting a higher quality meat, like protein source.
That makes sense. Yeah.
But guys, they have a really great app and they know when my dog needs food and they know when my dog's birthday is. And
Yep.
I mean, even I put in my numbers for my dog who has like a ton of allergies, and even what they had to offer, I was like, she's allergic to half those things. Like that still wouldn't work.
I know. So anyway, I get it. They're a good market. They're good at what they do with the marketing. But yeah, I think there are better options out there, definitely.
Yeah. And I think our listeners know well enough by now that I'm pretty sarcastic. So that's what I meant.
Yeah.
They have a really
it's funny app. Too. I love these, when they come in and they talk about some of these companies and they're like, oh, like they're what do you call it? Like, they're just breaking the pet food model. And I'm like, yeah, you mean like Honest Kitchen did 20 years ago, or you know what I mean? It's like these companies exist already. Like these foods are not new,
right?
The air dried stuff. Okay, ZB Peak's been around for. I mean, none of it is new. It's just the way that they're direct to consumer.
I think I think like my relationship right now with like all the foods, like being a part of like a retail aspect of, the pet food industry, and then being someone who is a pet owner and seeing all of the trends on the holistic side of social media and like those big players there, I'm realizing like I struggle because I'm like, okay, yeah, of course I'm like raw, natural, do less process as you can, but like that's also not realistic for everyone. And like there's a huge spectrum here of our pet owners and what they can afford and their lifestyle, and like everything is so situational and every dog needs a different thing. And like 100%, raw might be the best for this dog, but like if you can't commit to raw, then that's putting stress and that's tension, and then that's your dog's suffering emotionally from that. And so I think it's really important that there are pet retailers, independent retailers like Petagogy and like Healthy Pet Products in Wagsburg and Lawrenceville Pet Supply that offer that spectrum of options and needs for the everyday pet owner that wants to do better by their pet within what their means and what they can do.
Absolutely. And if all you can do is dry food, great. Dogs have lived 18, 20 years on dry food. Let's just get you on the best one for your budget. That's all we want to do, And if you can add a little bit of goat milk, or you can add a little bit of
bone broth,
freeze dried on top,
whatever,
bone broth, anything is better. Even if you're just cutting up beans and carrots and putting it on top, fantastic. Like we would never tell you not to do that stuff, So
we've been going,
I think you're right. I think
we are like-minded, Heather and I, and we at Healthy Pet Products, we're kind of following Dr. Karen Becker's model where the customers that are interested in reducing the kibble, 20%. Try to do 20% fresh foods, whether it's your home cooked healthy kitchen scraps that you keep in a separate container in the fridge and add a little bit with every meal, whether it's raw, whether it's bone broth, whether it's goat milk, whatever, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We take the same stance. It's like we're not going to tell you to feed 100% raw or 100% gently cooked. Like if you can't do it, it's not feasible for most customers.
Right.
So we're just here, it's like if you're interested and you want some information or some, products that could just maybe like enhance that bowl, every little bit you do matters. Every little bit you do is gonna count for something. And and if you can't, that's fine too. Let's just figure out like, what you're on now, and let's see if we can upgrade that and keep you in the same price point. And that's all we're trying to do. We're not trying to like upsell anybody if it's not good for them.
Or push a lifestyle on them that they're not equipped to handle long term.
Right. Exactly. 100%. Exactly. And that's what the first thing. I mean, I say to customers all the time. They'll come in and they'll say, "Oh, my dog is eating their kibble. What can I add to the bowl?" And I'm like, "Listen, I love that you would add something to the bowl. And if you want to add something to the bowl, I will show you options until you're blue in the face. But if you are not committed to doing this for the rest of your dog's life, don't do it, because they're not going to eat dry food again if you don't put anything." It's like, I'm warning you. Like, and some of them will be like, "Oh, thanks. Yeah, I don't know if I'm ready to do that." And I'm like, let's think of things that we can do. But like, I'm just telling you, your dog is going to see that dry food with nothing on it. And he's going to be like, "I'm not eating that. Like, where's the, chicken, the freeze dried, the bone, whatever." So just be prepared, and like, they're like, "Oh yeah, I never thought of it that way."
I'd also love to see a change of narrative from consumers of being so fearful of table scraps as well.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yes. And people will often come up to us and be like, I don't give table scraps. And I'm like,
it's like a positive.
Right. And I'm like, it's about, table scraps are an issue about the behavior that it creates when you have a dog begging at the dining room table for table scraps.
Exactly.
But it's not
also the types that you're giving them.
Right.
Like if you're giving them gristle and gravy.
Right. Or your fucking bacon oil grease.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's what same thing. I'm like, it's like the two rumors that are like persisted over time is the table scraps thing and the never change their food.
Yes, exactly.
There's like the two things that I'm always just like, why won't this die?
And a lot of times, like the few customers that I do have that feed table scraps, like when they're new customers, they're like afraid to tell me. Yeah. And I'm like,
same, I know. Yeah.
No,
and I'm like, it's okay. Great. What are you feeding them?
Yeah.
They'll be like, I put some like vegetables in their bowl. I'm like, great, keep doing that. Don't stop doing that.
Everyone's so embarrassed to say that they give their dog scrambled eggs.
Yeah. I would save cuttings from chicken, like good cuttings from chicken, or so healthy.
I know scrambled eggs. I said to one of them, they were telling me they were doing scrambled eggs. I was like, just put a raw egg in there. Like, what? Yeah. And I was like, they're like, I don't have to cook it. I'm like, no, just put a raw. I'm like, put the shells and everything.
Yes. Like, some dogs will love to crunch those shells.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But you're right. The table scraps thing. But the way that's like, oh my God, I don't do it. I'm like, no, you should do it. You should do it.
I think that when we have those conversations from a retail perspective with those consumers, and we're like, we are encouraging you to use what you already have in your house. Mm-hmm. We're not pushing you to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars at this store. We are pushing you to like, know, that there are other options out there. And so for me to talk to a customer and be like, yeah, you just, please feed green bean, please feed carrots, do raw egg, do chicken, like please do all that. You do not have to, come here and expect to get everything here. And I think that establishes trust in a relationship with our consumers that they trust. And they're like, oh, okay, you're not just like salesy and pushing, the latest and greatest.
And my staff, especially in Shadyside, will do on the toy side too. Like two of my full-time employees at Shadyside they both came from rescue. They both came from humane animal rescue. So like they will get, they're like, oh, you want to do snuffle toys? Get egg towel, get boxes, get the towel. And people are like, oh, okay. Like, we're not going to, it's like, we want you. I mean, great. You want to buy snuffle mat from us? We're not going to tell you no. But if you're hesitant because you're of the money, we'll give you other options. We just want you to do these things with your dog, and it's going to be better for all of you, you know?
Yep. And fold up that towel and then put that towel in a box and then put a box in the box. And
I know you have boxes at home.
Yeah.
Right. I know you got boxes. We all have boxes.
We all have boxes.
Exactly.
Okay. I'm going to bring up something that I didn't think about until right now since we had this conversation, but I'm very interested on your perspective of this.
Okay.
How do you handle customers coming in who immediately want a product that fixes a dog that pulls on a leash?
Well, the first thing we say is there's no product out there that will stop your dog from pulling. It comes with training.
Right.
The products will help you as a tool.
Right.
They're there as a tool, but they're not going to cure pulling.
Right.
Even if it says no pull on it, love you, Two Hounds Design, it's only no pull after you put the work in.
Yep.
Right.
And so, we try to make that very clear. And Rach, who works for me, is a dog trainer and is very good about sort of talking through, the steps that people need to sort of partake in while they're using this harness to kind of help with that. But
I always ask,
that's always a fun one.
My follow-up question is, do you want something that will eliminate more like pressure on your shoulder, or do you want a tool that assists in training?
Same. We ask the exact same question. We're like, are you trying to take the stress off the neck, or are you trying to like walk your dog better? And it's usually, because that will dictate what kind of harness we're going to recommend for you.
And this is probably a good time to mention that retractable leashes actually teach dogs to pull.
Yes. Yes.
Because
my favorite is the retractable leash harness combo. And I'm like,
oh.
So good. Same. We don't do any retractable leashes, much to our customers' dismay.
Yep.
But we tell them why.
Right.
We really encourage the use of long lines, especially
I love a good long line. It is great for hiking,
love a good long line.
training. It's multi-use, multifunctional.
Well, retractables. Go ahead, Heather.
I was gonna say, do you guys have Hightail Hikes? Do you know them? The Biothane company.
Hightail Hike?
Highly recommend. It's this woman out of California. She started as a dog walker, but she started making her own biothane leashes.
Yeah.
And she makes fabulous I think she does upwards of 20 feet in biothane. I mean, they're not cheap, but they're super durable, all brass hardware, really great, especially for outdoor stuff.
We have a local, what's the name of that local woman that's always at the expo, Pittsburgh Expo?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Share.
We'll share. Yeah.
So such good conversation. How about competition online? Do you do anything different, or you just don't worry about it and do your own thing?
I mean, it's one of those questions that's always sort of in the back of my head. Obviously, we don't have an online store. We don't, we do local delivery, but you still have to call in. Will we do one at some point? I don't know. But I don't know. We kind of just continue just to do our thing and sort of hope that the customer service and the advice and the experience will speak for itself. And so far that's working. And I mean, do we not get customers because they just want 100% convenience? Probably. But
people, there's, I don't know any person. I mean, I guess I'm sure there's people out there, but delivery times don't always line up perfectly. And there has to always be a time in someone's schedule that they're just out of something and they just need to physically go get something to feed their animals.
And I mean, going back to the harness discussion, I mean, how many times have you had a customer come in and say, oh my God, I bought 50 harnesses online and none of them fit correctly. And we're like, okay, great. Let's put it on right now and we'll fit it for you. And they're like, oh, fantastic. So, and I think those people then see oh, I'm going to get something different here. And Toni, we kind of talked about this weekend a little bit. We met all these great retailers on this board we're at, and so many of them are, their business models are just a little bit different. There's definitely more of an online presence, and that's great. And I think the stores that can do both, that's fantastic. But right now we're really just sort of focused on building, and keeping a really good in-store experience. We're a neighborhood store, we're a destination. We want you to feel comfortable coming in and asking us questions and talking things through. And we're going to do that as long as we can.
Yep. Same.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
What were you going to ask? I was going to ask about her animals.
Go for it.
What about, let's talk about your animals, what you feed, your routine, all of that.
So I have, I'm down to one dog. I just lost one in November. Both were rescues from animal friends. So my dog Dika, who's under my feet right now, is a Chihuahua Corgi mix. She's about 14. We've had her since she was about 1. And she was actually an Orphans of the Storm transfer to Animal Friends. And then my dog Daisy, who we just lost, she was, we think, almost 16. She was like 5-ish when we got her, but like that's, give or take, a year, 2 years. She was a Beagle Coonhound mix, and we just lost her in November, and we really missed her. But they're pretty healthy old girls. I like to take a little bit of credit for that. I'm sure their, muttness contributes to that as well. But yeah, so Dika, she gets a pretty solid, mostly raw diet. She gets Sojos in the morning with her goat milk and all her supplements. So her Optigest and her milk thistle and her hip and joint too. And so all that kind of goes. She gets her breakfast, and then she gets a little bit of kibble after she gets that in her snuffle mat, just to kind of keep her occupied. And then at dinner time, she gets usually a part of a raw frozen patty. So, and I rotate. I do some Stella and Chewy. Sometimes I do small batch. Sometimes I do primal. It just kind of depends on the protein I'm looking for, frankly, what we have in stock. And I don't want to take away from stuff that's maybe low stock. But yeah, so that's kind of.
And you said she's 14, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I love the fact that you're still doing a snuffle mat with a senior dog.
Yeah. It's funny. We actually just started the snuffle mat like not that long ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can still snuffle at any age.
Yes. It is. Love that.
She loves it. Like the first day we brought it in, she was like, what is this thing? And then she was like, oh, this is awesome.
That is mental stimulation, which keeps her brain active, which is very important for a senior dog. And because she lost Daisy, right? Daisy passed in November.
She did, yeah. And I will say she definitely was, she was, you could tell she was a little weird for a little while.
Yeah.
Just didn't really know what was going on there.
Yeah. So great message. Even senior dogs can benefit greatly from interactive dog toys.
Yeah.
So,
and I love how, and I think Toni does the same thing, and I do a very similar thing, how we rotate through different categories of feeding, different brands. I mean, I have a dog that can go from a Lotus canned food to a Answers raw patty and anywhere, and even do a kibble, like anywhere in between. And I think that's just like, so, taboo.
And she's pretty good.
But
exactly. And like, I will say, like, we've been doing this since she was pretty young. She's kind of, I mean, at first we were basically just doing like kibble and can't until we, sort of opened the store and kind of got more comfortable. And also as these products sort of became like more available, but she's always been, I mean, both of my dogs have been able to switch with no issue, which is like, I tell customers all the time, like the more you get them used to eating different things, the easier it is going to be. And so if there's a product shortage or an outage, especially like we've been dealing with this the last couple of years, it's so much easier just to like, just get a different kind of something. And then, and, also I don't, we don't have to go too far into this rabbit hole of DCM, but my biggest message to customers when they ask me about it is just, if the dog is eating the same thing over and over and over and over and over again for years, like the chance of something going wrong is just there.
Yes.
It just is.
Right.
So if the more you vary it, if you're adding grains, if you're not, it's like, it's just be varied, be grain free sometimes, feed whole grain sometimes. Then then when these things come out, it's not that much of a concern, because you're not dependent upon one thing,
and
just like us.
Exactly. And the kibble manufacturers use the same vitamin pack. So if there's a deficiency or an excessive amount, because they're not formulating those vitamin packs.
Right.
So you're reducing your chance of something like that happening. You just have to rotate through brands, through categories, through proteins. We echo the same message, which is fantastic.
Yeah. Just vary it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we would never eat the same thing. Well, how could we think a dog or a cat would?
No. And I'm pretty sure if you went to the doctor and you said, hey, I eat the same meal 3 times a day for 20 years, they'd be like, I don't know if that's good.
Right. Right. And you said to me this weekend, how could any doctor or vet argue with incorporating fresh food into reducing to reduce processed? Like, how can you argue?
The more processed, it's just, I mean, I agree.
I mean,
I just don't understand that.
Even like with children who, I mean, there's so many kids who will just eat like chicken nuggets and applesauce.
Yeah.
And like parents are so concerned because it's a low quality meat. It's a highly processed meat and it's not filling nutritional gaps. It's the same.
Right.
It's the same thing.
Right.
For growth and development,
exactly.
especially for, puppies and young dogs.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's like, again, I'm not a vet. I'm not going to get into like, I know there are things that I don't know. And I'm totally fine with that, but I'm still going to stand by the fact that whole food is better than processed food. Like I just can't, it has to be, right?
So back to us echoing the same message. So I am very excited to let our listeners know that Heather and I are board members of a really great organization, and it's called Indie Pet. And it is a group of retailers that are trying to are here to help strengthen the independent pet channel. So that's when Heather and I kept talking about, this weekend we were talking about this, we were talking about that. We had a meeting, and it's an all new board for 2023, and we had a really great time with these people. We have a great group, and we have high hopes to help every independent pet store across the country. So
yeah, it's a great group. Yeah, it's a great organization with a great mission, which is basically just to, build awareness, build and strengthen this channel, the channel that Toni and I are in, that Wagsburg is in, that Lawrenceville Pet Supply is in, that Salty Paws is in, all these great independent stores in Pittsburgh. This is a nationwide group of them of saying, we're out here, we're doing this work to make dogs and pet owners and cat owners' lives better by these great products that the other independent companies that are in this group are making, and just trying to, build awareness of that. And these great, and it's so cool to like meet all these other stores all over the country that are doing the same thing, all different sizes. And so, yeah, I'm really excited to be working with, and I love that there's, some really good Pittsburgh representation on this board. There's only like 10 members, and 2 of them are from Pittsburgh. So I think that says a lot about us.
I feel bad for them, actually.
I know. They'll be fine. They're going to stop inviting us to things.
I know, right? I know. And meanwhile, so Heather and I were at the pool whatever day, and I have a tendency to be loud, and we were talking about food, and I was like, we started getting on our soapbox, and I was like, but Heather, Hills, is scientifically backed, and they have studies that prove this woman that was laying on the other side of Heather sat up, gave me a little bit of a hairy eyeball, and moved to the other end of the pool.
Moved to the other side of the pool.
Oh my God.
So, we were either being too loud, which is quite possible, or she either worked for Hills, because don't forget, we were at a pet industry conference, so that's not too far off. We're just like, whoopsie.
Or she was behind some of those studies that had been done. Who knows?
Yeah,
but
exactly.
It was so funny.
We were not her favorite people that day.
Okay, so Heather, Petagogy Shadyside, Petagogy Greensburg. What else do you want to share with our listeners as we end our conversation? Anything we missed?
I don't think so. I mean, I think we did a lot of good stuff here. We're on, you can follow us on social media. We do events throughout the year. We do rescue stuff, anything we can do to help the community. And, if you're not familiar with us, check us out online. We're at, petagogy.com. At Petagogy is our Instagram handle. But yeah, we're, thanks. So it's so great to talk to you guys. And I love, the community of pet store owners here in Pittsburgh. So yeah, it's, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Are you guys exclusive with Biggie's Boys? Like, do you guys mostly do all of your rescue stuff with them? Are they still around?
They are, yeah. We do a lot with them, but we are not exclusive with them. We sort of work with different rescues throughout the region. Our Greensburg store especially focuses on a lot of stuff in Westmoreland County. So yeah, so we mix it up. But we do a lot with Biggie's just because, of Allie, and she just does, she does a lot of great stuff throughout the community too. So we try to keep her supported when we can.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah, great.
Well, Heather, I really appreciate you being on.
Thanks for having me.
Who knows? We might do it again.
Anytime. I'll come talk to you guys anytime.
There's so much to talk about.
Yeah.
And
I know.
we are on the same wavelength and have the same mission. Yeah. And as far as rescues go, we mix it up mostly too. This year, we're really focusing on our Orphans of the Storm for 2023, but we're still gonna,
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is great because, I think sometimes too, and it's great to mix it up. And sometimes you gotta, when they really need
they need
to
a
really
push.
work on something, it's good to give them a push. So it's awesome to see that you guys are doing that. And I think it's gonna be a good year.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Heather. Tell all your partners we said hello.
And, thanks, guys. This was so fun. We'll have to just get drinks or something sometime.
Right? For sure. I'll come to the city. I'll come to the big city.
Yeah, we're in Pittsburgh. I mean, everyone we've done like video podcast interviews with, they've been from another state. So it's like, I guess we can. We're like 20 minutes away.
House.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to come over for dinner. We usually eat dinner before and have drinks. So next time you come over.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Okay.
All right. Sounds good, guys.
All right.
Bye, Heather.
Have a good night. Bye for now.
Bye.
If you're hearing this message, you've listened to our entire episode. And for that, we thank you.
If you have any questions or would like to follow our other projects, join our Toni Unleashed and Healthy Pet Products social media pages like Facebook and Instagram.
Please leave us a review and share episodes with your friends so we can further expand our message to listeners just like you.
Don't hesitate to tell us which topics you would like us to cover in future episodes. To get in touch, you can reach us by emailing info@tonyunleashed.com or by sending us a message on social media.
And reminder that episodes drop bi-weekly on Tuesdays. Thanks again for all your support.